Hi everyone, let's talk about CO2 Second Chance, which I just did a solo playthrough for, showing off the new cooperative mode in this. Also, there's an original one for the competitive mode of the original CO2 that I did last year. It'll all be linked somewhere, I hope. Anyway, this is, well, a reimagining of CO2, keeping in most of the elements, but adding in, it was a semi-cooperative game to begin with, and now seemingly the main way to play is this new cooperative mode, and I absolutely love it. It's happened before with, I'm sure there's more examples, but say early on, a game that I absolutely loved, bag building game that came out with a great big expansion that's one of the modes included, was a way to play the game the exact same way, but now it's all cooperative and we're all working together and we are trying to build our own engines to help each other. It works so beautifully, so perfectly in CO2. Not just for the theme anyway, that the theme is that, all of these power plants are destroying the atmosphere and we need to be bringing in these green power plants. And, it still works in terms of, the companies are competitive with each other and trying to make the most. And if you're too selfish, then the game will end and everybody will lose. That still, works as the theme, but much prefer the theme as we are all working together to try and stop this disaster from happening. And yeah, that's kind of thing applied in the same way that I loved early on so much, and now all of the kind of enjoyment of it and the strategizing and everything can happen with everybody exactly the same in CO2. All of the crazy brain burning that goes on in a Vital Lacerda game now is kind of the burden is shared, but yeah, the joy is shared of kind of going through all of these options and seeing that yes, that's the thing that we should do. What are the pros and cons of going for all of these things? And yeah, CO2, I remember, I won't talk too much about just the system itself because I did all of that when I did the original game, but yeah, I remember when I first had to teach CO2 that I had notes and everything made that it was a hurdle to get over, as a lot of as all of Vital Lacerda games take some kind of getting used to just where am I in this, and as soon as it clicks, just everything completely makes sense with what we're doing with this theme. It's a really nice system in CO2 that we are building the power plants in this 3-step process. And in the original game, the power plants didn't belong to anyone until someone had built them, and that kind of works. That we are all collaboratively doing it now. It works brilliantly. It's changed a little bit for the competitive mode as well. That it was true in the original CO2 that only the person who built the power plant, did the final stage, kind of got the credit and was able to claim the UN gold cards and stuff. That's been changed now to the person that did the infrastructure, the second of the 3 stages. So that, because it got to the point that towards the end of the game, you didn't really want to propose new things or do the infrastructure because someone else would piggyback off and just get all of the glory right at the end of the game. That's kind of an integral part of the game all the way through it, but in the the final stages, you kind of didn't want to be introducing these new things because you knew that somebody else would get the final credit for it, and that's changed quite a lot with the infrastructure being the important step for it as well. The solo game works absolutely beautifully in that it's just that cooperative game, but with extra kind of screws put on you that you now have to, it's harder to get control of the regions and you are trying to do it all by yourself. You can get the equivalent of a 2-player game. You can get, well, not really, because you don't get double the executive actions. You can take extra actions, but at the cost of all of this pollution. And if you're not careful, as you might see in the playthrough, if you're not careful, you can get to a point where the pollution, you've not been able to recover from the pollution enough, and so you can no longer take extra actions, and you are kind of in a downward spiral because, not being able to take those extra actions means you're not going to be able to build as many power plants, which means you're going to get more fossil fuel plants, which means the pollution's going to go up, and you haven't built as many, so you're not going to have the points to pay for it all. Yeah, it's just a beautiful thing, the cooperative game that we can... we have these goals, quite an array of goals to fix, and that is kind of there was always a thing in CO2 of looking at where the summits were, looking at what the regions wanted. All of that is still there, but now you've got this added thing of, okay, these are all of the goals. what combination can we do? Okay, there's one for wind farm, there's one for South America. Okay, they want a wind farm, brilliant. We'll do one there. And okay, summit, 2 topics, and recycling and solar. Okay, we can do all of these goals in one big go. It's a really nice strategic moment. It goes all the way through the game, but it's a great start to the cooperative experience that we can see all of these things and how many goals can we check off right at the start so the punishments don't keep recurring all the way through it. And the UN inspectors is a nice little variant as well, that it makes a certain goal for the building and for the summits each decade. It doubles their punishments, so it gives you an extra incentive to go for those particular ones and leads you in a direction that might end up leading you a bit astray, and it would have been better to take the double punishment. But yeah, absolutely love it. I really, really enjoyed CO2. I can't remember where exactly it came in my ranking of the city games. It was something like 4th or something. I think it goes something like Kanban, Gallerist. I remember they're the top. But yeah, this CO2 now... it's definitely, I think Kanban especially, we'll see how it goes with Kanban's refreshment that's coming up soon on Kickstarter this year. It's getting added to, the Eagle Griffin series of deluxe Lacerda's Kanban electric vehicles. So we'll see. I don't think it's getting tweaked too much, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, just... For the fact that I know that you couldn't just throw it into all of them, that the theme particularly makes it work in CO2 and the structure of the game makes it work so much. But yeah, I absolutely love that you were always sharing the experience that we're playing this game together, but the fact that we are cooperating and discussing it all and having it all out in the open while still having some of the secret things. You've still got to achieve your private goals that you're not allowed to talk about, and you still have your cards that are in secret to your agenda cards to get various bonuses throughout the game. But then you can use other people's agenda cards to send your scientists and stuff to later on if you want to. It's just absolutely beautiful. And while I know that it's not just ideal for every single game and you can't just throw it on everyone, it just adds to it so much that it's an extra shared experience now. And I would say that Kanban's still probably my favourite, but yeah, this shoots CO2 right up to quite close to it. It's definitely... if this... I'm not sure what year this is coming out in. It probably counts as 2018, doesn't it, technically? So it can't be in the top of 2019, but I really wish that it could. Well, I suppose I'll make the rules, so it could be. But yeah, absolutely love it. The production, so this isn't Eagle Griffin, although this is Ian O'Toole has added the artwork to, I think it still uses some of the original artwork, and Ian O'Toole's has been added. It's a beautiful, they have a great collaboration, a great history of collaboration with Vinyos and On Mars and Escape Plan and the Gallerist. Have I missed one there? A really, really great pedigree coming from them. And yeah, the nice, it's got the beautiful layout that's, it fits the theme still, and it's even more functional. The player aids are very useful. It's just going through the rulebook to, admittedly, I know the game, and it's reading through this rulebook was a refresher and seeing what was different for the cooperative game. So I wasn't learning it from scratch. But compared to the original CO2 rulebook, wow, that was another reason I had to take notes in learning CO2, because it was very much on the technical manual side of things, numbered paragraphs and stuff, and it was a little obtuse to get to grips with. Rulebook far better in this, and yeah, it's almost at that Eagle Griffin thing, because although it's Ian O'Toole and Vita Lacerda, this is still with GeoChix. So they ran their own Kickstarter for it, for this revised edition. And yeah, on the whole, it's just little nitpicks that's like, I think for Kickstarter backers, they were kind of annoyed that some things didn't get done in the end that were promised. Like, it's not a huge thing to complain about just coming from the outside that... the cards haven't got, linen finish, and the tokens haven't got linen finish, and it's got a nice custom plastic insert, but one of the sections is too small for the pieces that it's meant for, so that kind of throws everything out of whack then, because then the thing on top of that doesn't fit in, and it's just very minor things like that. Like, I can't imagine they would be the deciding factor in whether or not you would get this. But yeah, just a little bit off the mark and it's I think it's still more expensive to have one of the pointing at things that are even on camera. That's where all the Lacerda games are now. But yeah, it's kind of coming from being used to all of these fancy, pretty spot-on deluxe editions that, yeah, you pay the premium for. This is close to that premium price, and it's missing a little bit of that sheen. But overall, just absolutely fantastic. I can't go on enough about how much I love the new cooperative mode. I haven't played the competitive mode with the new tweaks in it, and to be honest, I don't know that I would play competitively ever again. It's like the semi-cooperative nature of it. I've never played in a game with someone that would want to tank because they weren't winning the game, and it's always part of that risk of if we need to kind of collaborate a little bit because the game will end if we don't. I think that's been made a little bit harder in the competitive version of Second Chance as well. It's much more likely that everybody will lose through not cooperating, and there is a variant to kind of set it back to the way it was before, but absolutely cooperative CO2 is where it's at. It's all I care about. It's absolutely fantastic if you are a fan of Vital Lacerda's games, or in cooperative games and you are looking for kind of a really, really heavy. That's another beautiful thing. There aren't these heavy Euro games that are cooperative. Like All the On Invasion is probably as much as it got. Spirit Island maybe was kind of the heaviest cooperative game that I've got. But yeah, CO2 surely takes the biscuit right now, and it's absolutely fantastic. I'm just going to keep repeating myself, so I'll stop talking there. Thank you very much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you for the next game. Bye.